Hello, how are you all doing? I hope you're making it through this assignment pretty good. So right now we're going to take some notes just like we did yesterday on elements, only today we're going to talk about compounds. So we're going to set this paper here up just like we did the elements paper yesterday. If you want, push pause, go ahead and get you a piece of notebook paper and you can start whenever you're ready. The first thing we're going to do is write this kind of oval in the middle of this deal here. So there's my oval, and then I'm going to have my 3 boxes on the top. I'm going to make a big rectangle up here, and then I'm going to split it into 3. So I'm going to put one line right there, and one line about right there. Okay, and then we'll go down to the bottom and do the same thing. So a big old rectangle all the way across the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to make sure that you can separate these things out and kind of know each section, okay? So then we're going to separate these down here into 3, okay? So in the middle, we're talking about compounds. So we're going to write compounds right here. C-O-M-P-O-U-N-D-S. Compounds, okay? So let's start at the top left. In this top left, we're going to write the definition of compounds. So the definition is something that you'll be able to find from last Friday's work. We also have them uploaded into our files area, and you'll find it under Elements and Compounds Vocabulary, okay? So the definition of a compound is a pure substance made of 2 or more elements. So that's what we're going to write right up here in this box. So a pure substance made up of 2, I'm going to underline that, or more elements. Okay, so a pure substance made up of 2 or more elements. Good. Okay, so the next box, we're going to put that the elements are chemically combined. So you won't really know the differences yet, but whenever you get up into higher parts of science, they'll talk more about the different ways that these compounds can be combined. So we're going to say the elements are chemically combined. Okay, so in this last box up here, we're going to write an example of a compound that you probably have in your kitchen right now. So the example is Na plus Cl2, and that's going to equal, I'm going to go down here, NaCl. So do we want to know what that means? Well, let's get our periodic table over here, and we'll figure out what this Na is. You remember yesterday how we found the elements on this periodic table? So you get your table and try to have a piece of paper that'll help you guide your way across there. So let's look up the first one, Na. So it's not there. It's not there. Oh, there it is right there. We've got sodium. So Na is sodium. So I'll write sodium down here. It's sodium, and Cl is what we're looking for next. So let's see if we can find a Cl. It's not hydrogen or helium. Let's see here. We're going to keep going. Oh, there's a Cl right there. Chlorine is what that is. So I'll write chlorine down here just so we know what it is. CHLORINE. And then this number 2 right here means that there's 2 atoms of chlorine. So if there's no number there by it, you just automatically know that there's only 1. We don't have to write that there's 1 because there's not a number there. we just automatically know that there's one of those and 2 atoms of chlorine. Whatever this number right here is, if there's a little one by it, that would be how many atoms of chlorine are in this compound. Okay, so we've got sodium and 2 atoms of chlorine. Okay. So does anybody have any idea, before we move on, what this NaCl is? What is sodium and chlorine? Sodium chloride, maybe. Any guesses? So I bet you have it in your kitchen, and you might even put it on your food every time you eat. It's table salt. So I'm going to put table salt up here. So, I mean, that's just kind of cool, right? We know exactly now what 2 elements make up table salt. Pretty neat. All right, let's scoot on down to the bottom here. In this first box, we're going to talk about how these compounds are represented. And just like elements, they're going to be represented with chemical symbols, but all together, when you add those symbols up, when it looks like this right here, this one is a chemical formula. Okay, so we're going to write down in this box that a compound is represented by a chemical formula. So chemical formula is also one of your vocabulary words. Feel free to go check that out and see exactly what that definition says. Okay, so in this next box right here, we're going to say that each element in a chemical formula begins with a capital letter and the others are lowercase letters. So just like when we're talking about the chemical symbols, every time you're writing down a chemical symbol, the first letter of that symbol is going to be a capital letter for every element. So when you're writing a chemical formula, you're writing the element's chemical symbol, and each element has to have a capital letter to begin with, okay? So we're going to write that in here. It sounds a little bit confusing, but it's really not bad. Once we get in here and do it a little, you'll understand. So each element in a chemical formula begins with a capital letter. The others are lowercase. Okay, so we can look right back up here. We have our chemical formula, which is this one here for table salt, for sodium chloride. Sodium is capital N, lowercase a. So we're going to move that exact chemical symbol right here, exactly the same way, with the capital letter to begin with and the lowercase a. And here is chloride or chlorine with a capital C and a lowercase l, and we brought it exactly the same way down here to this chemical formula. The capital letters first, and then we have a lowercase letter, okay? See, it's not that complicated, it just sounds that way. Our last box right here, we are going to have some examples, okay? And these might be everyday things, things that you might already use or have or breathe or stuff that we might already know, okay? So the first one is water. So water's chemical formula is two hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom combined in a compound. So we would write that H with a little 2, remember, because there's 2 hydrogen atoms, and then one big O. We automatically know that there's only one oxygen there because it doesn't have a number by it, right? So H2O, I bet you've heard that before when people are talking about water. This is why. It's not just H2O because that's a nickname we give it. It's H2O because that's exactly what it is. It's made of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom combined to make a compound. Kind of cool, right? Okay, so the next one, this is what you might breathe. Come on, lights. This is what we breathe out every time. So we breathe oxygen in, our lungs take it in, it moves it through our bloodstream. And when we breathe out, what comes out is carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide its chemical formula is 1 carbon atom and 2 oxygen atoms. So that's a C, a 1 capital C, 1 big O, and the number 2, because we have just 1 carbon atom and 2 oxygen atoms. That's why we have this number 2 right there. Okay? Sodium chloride, this is what we were talking about right up here. Y'all remember what that is? Table salt. So sodium chloride is a fun way to say table salt. If you want to confuse people, next time you go out to eat, you could ask your waitress for some sodium chloride. She might look at you like you're crazy, but I don't know. It's fun. Sodium. And do you all remember what that chemical formula looks like? I hope so, because it's right there. NaCl. Okay, so I did a little bit of research because I was feeling like this number 2 right here shouldn't be there. I mean, it's there on my notes page, but I don't think it's supposed to be. So I'm going to get rid of it. Sodium chloride has 1 atom of chlorine, not 2, but I guess it was a good teaching moment, right? So sometimes things don't always go as we plan. Everybody makes mistakes, right? So it's gone now. Sodium chloride is 1 atom of sodium and 1 atom of chlorine. Okay, please forgive me. It's okay, it happens. Next, we have silicon dioxide. Silicon is an element. And when you see dioxide, you can think just oxygen. So that oxide is just an oxygen. We say it that way because it's behind the silicon. And carbon dioxide was the same way. That dioxide just means oxygen. Okay, I know it's kind of silly. It's a science thing. It's just one of them science things. So the chemical formula for silicon dioxide is going to be S, a capital S with a little I, and then a capital O for that oxygen, and a 2 because there's 2 atoms of oxygen right there, okay? So 1 atom of silicon and 2 atoms of oxygen. So this silicon dioxide business here, this is something that you would mostly find in nature. It's in the ground in a lot of places, in the mineral quartz, and you can find that in a bunch of living things, trees, and I bet we have a little bit of silicon in us too. It's just a pretty popular element, or a compound rather. So I hope this answers some questions for you about compounds. Don't forget to upload a picture of your notes page to your assignment so that I know you've done your notes. And if you have any questions, where do we ask our questions? That's right, the questions channel, or you can send me an email. Have a wonderful day. Keep going in our assignment to finish it out.